Tell you, it went right through the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order and welcome you to the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is 6:30 p.m. I see that, I'm not sure of your name, I'm so sorry, from Wilbraham Public Access Channel.
Dulcie.
Thank you for being here tonight. It's recording. Is anyone else here recording this meeting? Okay, we will do roll call in alphabetical order. Bill Bunting.
Here.
Cheryl Caravana. Here. Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Patrick Kiernan.
Present.
Lisa Murray. Here. Maura Ryan. Here. Michelle Boudreau. Aye. Here. If you would please stand. Maura will lead the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we will begin with our student report. Molly Brewer, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Alright, so Friday, I believe, is our school resource officer's last day. Officer Nard is being replaced with Officer Ryan. I think he's here tonight, yep. Friday is also Minichog semi-formal, and that's from 7 to 10. I will be there. Wednesday, December 7th is the art show and the winter concert. I will also be there. Probably for a long time. It's like a couple hours. The drama club is also having its auditions for the musical Puffs, which I believe is like a Harry Potter like spin-off type. I don't know. I'll probably see it. NHS has sponsored a tree at the Boys and Girls Club of Springfield's annual Festival of Trees. It's like local themed almost. It's got like local businesses and like going stuff to put on the tree. So like a raffle on it, and then that money goes to the Boys and Girls Club, if I'm not mistaken. Your books are on sale, and finals are coming up. Like they're still pretty far away, but January 19th and January 20th, Minichog's having its finals. So see how that goes. And that's everything.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was great.
Did you eat all turkey?
Of course.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, I saw your picture in the paper picking up some hardware from the superintendent there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will move on to new business, and we will begin with the school safety coordinator position. What's our background on?
Hi,
Hey, Gina. Hey, Gina.
nice to see you all. So I am here to share a little bit about the request that is in front of you for your consideration. The thing that you will probably want to know is that this is a very part-time and very temporary position that we are seeing as valuable for the completion of the School Violence Prevention Department of Justice grant, the SBTP. So what would maybe be helpful for you to know is that this is a grant that we've had, I think, now going on 3 years. We have an extension on it. It is our second extension. And we really are now approaching the finish line of this project. There are a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up as we continue forward in the strong desire to be absolutely completed with our approved activities by September 30th of 2023. I will think about that because I got it done before. And with that, those projects are in place and they are on the road, but it would be extremely helpful to have someone in kind of a coordinating role who would just make sure that those projects do in fact come to completion. So even though things are underway and vendors, et cetera, are relevant, those have all been categorized and moving forward, it really would be extremely helpful to have that person that's really just coordinating these final details. The position was in the grant to begin with, but for a variety of reasons it was never filled. because basically we got the grant and then came into the long COVID winter, where so many of what we had envisioned of our activities were delayed, the supply chain issues and things like that. There were so many delays. We are now moving forward. We now see the end of the site, but that need probably is even a little bit more prominent now as we look at some of the changes and transitions that have happened, and it would be really helpful. So do you have any questions and before I go on and on?
Is this a, oh, sure, I was just going to ask, second, is this a, like someone who's already working at the school can do? Because it says it's only 8 hours a week.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So potentially, I think in my mind, it's a person that really understands school safety, has maybe some knowledge of where these projects have been and where they are going. So it could be maybe someone internally that can pick up these few extra hours, or it could potentially be that right person that is external. I think it just needs to be the right person. I don't.
I didn't know if it was aimed at here, but you're saying you're still going to apply. That's great.
I think the plan is for a posting. Is that, am I right then? Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you have a motion and a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Sometimes I have to go up here.
So we will continue with the introduction of the school resource officers. Officer, what do you think?
Sure, thank you. Before I do that, I will take this opportunity to also thank Officer Menard for more than 20 years of service as an SRO to our district. He will be missed. I have the pleasure now of introducing not only his replacement, but also our SRO from Hamden. One of the things I've learned in interviewing Officer Ryan, who will be replacing Officer Menard, is that he was actually a student here who was sort of inspired to the position by watching Officer Menard do his work. So I would invite them to come forward and just introduce themselves to the committee.
So, yeah, I'm a 2005 graduate of Minnetonka.
Oh, that way you get access to me.
I'm a 2005 graduate of Minnetonka and just honored to be back in town and be the next school resource officer to replace Danny. He was my inspiration over the years and I really shadowed him. I was in Southwick PD for 6 years and I started their SRO program from ground up and used the Minnetonka platform, the Hamden Wilbraham platform for that school district. So I'm just fortunate to be here and look forward to fill his big boots. And I know I'm going to be challenged to do good and look forward to it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Officer Jakes from Hamden, and I'm at Green Meadows, part-time position, so 8 hours a week, and I'm currently assigned to 3 to 11, so I'm trying to fit it in. I do like 12-hour days sometimes to get to 8. So, yeah, I like it. And we're working with Dan, and Dan Menard was awesome, so I'm still in touch with him because we're friends. But yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anything that you guys need from us, please do not hesitate to reach out.
And vice versa, yeah, reach out to us. It's D. Ryan and then it might be Hwrsd, that's the email. So
Perfect.
feel free to email anytime.
wjakes@hamdenpolice.com.
Awesome. Thank you for coming.
You are?
I'm not.
He's got the cards.
We'll get you in, don't worry.
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
We're gonna talk to your boss.
Menard failed me now. All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
So we will continue to, we're going to move on to approve the curriculum council job description.
Thank you. In your packet, you'll see a job description. I believe I shared a posting or a potential posting with you at the last meeting, just to give you an idea of where we were headed with it. I can tell you that the union has looked over this job description and is in agreement. You can see that we have put math/ELA in the parentheses. That's really just a placeholder. There will be one curriculum council for math, there will be another curriculum council for ELA. And those are the two that we want to stand up first because those are the most core programs. Over the course of the 5-year strategic plan, the goal would be to stand up other curriculum councils in the other disciplines. But there's a limit to our capacity to support councils, so I think the idea would be to start with an ELA council and math council, have them run for 2 years, and then have them stand down while we get started with science and related arts. So what I'm saying is this part that's in parentheses would change for each different council. So that one of these is ELA, one of them is math, in the future there'll be science and also related arts. But the qualifications, job descriptions, the essential functions, and the stipend would be the same for all of them.
I'm sorry, you might have just said it, but I didn't get how many total will we have?
So we're looking for probably a total of 4 curriculum councils altogether, and each council will be composed of 2 teachers from each of the elementary schools in Green Meadows and 2 teachers from the middle school and high school. So there'll be a number of opportunities for participation in these councils.
Make a motion to approve job description for the curriculum council.
Second. Discussion.
Is this going in appendix B or is it staying out?
I haven't talked about an MOA to put it into Appendix B, but I would be very amenable to that.
All right, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to old business, we will discuss the school committee goals.
Make a motion to approve the school committee goals.
Second. Third.
Discussion?
Yeah, just on the second page, there is, in the highlighted sections, it says by.
I couldn't remember the dates, and I know at the last meeting, I apologize for that.
Yeah.
I know the last meeting we talked about the dates, I couldn't remember them, but I will add them.
Yeah, so it's going to change every year. So what I would do is I would put by no later than 45 days prior to the earliest scheduled town meeting, present and approve a budget based on the above information to the school committee. And the reason why I say that is because there have been times where we have presented the budget and voted on it on the same night if we're up against the wall. So I don't want to create a situation where if we're running into a tight schedule before the annual town meeting.
So just
Actually, it's even more specific than that because it's 45 days before Hamden or Wilbraham, whichever one's first.
That's why I said the
Oh,
earliest
the
scheduled,
earliest, gotcha.
the earliest scheduled annual town meeting. So we'll have to take for the 4 days before. No, it would be the latest. Excuse me. It would be the latest scheduled annual town meeting. So let's say if Hamden was on Friday, Wilbraham was on Monday, we would have to go 45 days prior to the latest scheduled town meeting.
latest, okay.
That way, this goal will persist into year 2. I've always liked this goal. I think it's a good goal.
I think when we were kind of touching on the goals, we kind of touched on different things that we wanted to keep that part.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm sorry. Just to answer Sean's question. Sean's question was so the answer is the budget needs to be approved 45 days prior to the annual town meeting. So if the annual town meeting for Hampton is on Friday, it has to be approved by that Friday. Wilbraham's is not until the following Monday. So it would actually be the earlier town.
Right.
It would be the earlier.
So it's 45 days before the earliest of the
scheduled
two.
town meeting. So if
Friday.
Hampton's on Friday, that would drive the 45 days, and that's state law. And the other thing I wanted to say, well, I'll handle that before, sorry.
doesn't change anything from a substantive standpoint. So on the third bullet point, under the communication goal, I think we need to clean that up. I don't think that really makes sense. So we're disseminating information to include a school committee meeting. So I think it's potentially disseminate information, including school committee meeting product or something along those lines, but as it's written.
Yeah, no, that's actually what it was from last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
The next one, under the objectives for goal attainment there, I don't know why we wouldn't end it with a period after inclusion. So but with the way it's written, to an extent, it's limited. So I think the intent there is to say it's going to be student, community, and staff driven, but I would just end it with a period, which leaves it more open-ended as opposed to more limited as that goal is written.
So so how would that read?
Support the district as they promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, period.
Okay. And then take all the rest of that out?
Correct.
Okay.
Then if we get down under the education goal, the second bullet, I would remove in the elementary, middle, and high school grades, and you could just write in all grade levels. Under the first bullet for fiscal responsibility, I would remove the word "the" before financial decisions.
Sorry, say that one more time. What's that?
Just support financial decisions.
Okay, sorry.
As opposed to support the financial decisions. The fourth bullet point, there are a couple things in here where it talks about from both towns as well as the Wilbraham and Hamden town managers. I think you can move that up where it reads upper level administrative team, boards of selectmen from both towns, the finance committee advisory board member. So you could include that all in one, and it would just read something along the lines of the board of selectmen, comma, town managers, comma, the finance committee advisory board members from both towns. And then,
I'm sorry, so it would be the board of selectmen, town managers, finance and okay.
from both towns. That will remove a couple times where it says from both towns and just keeps the language cleaner.
Yep.
And then after town managers, it says and. We've got to clean some of this up. Where
Yep.
it says and will.
I knew this was gonna be a run-on sentence, I was hoping you guys were gonna help.
Okay, so on that, and will extend invitations to each of the elected state representatives and state senator or something along those lines.
Okay.
The other thing that I would put in that.
I'm sorry, just hold on one second, please. Okay.
And what I would probably do, I don't know that it would change, but I would put the S after state representatives and senators, so in case that representation changes, you don't have to go and change the goal.
Yep.
Where it becomes plural.
That was a spelling error, I just noticed, because it should have been pluralized.
The last thing I would add in that would be to put in and other town boards as appropriate. Is this year, for instance, I want to include capital planning. So if we put that in, then it will give us the freedom to change the invitee list as needed.
I don't think it says we have to only invite these people.
No, well, no, we schedule, actually, it will include superintendent, upper level administrative team. So if we just
Change
put
the
in,
name, right?
yeah, just
So
put
are you
that,
okay with me calling them town committees instead of boards, because I know
yeah,
some.
that's fine. Yeah, just something in there to say, and other town committees
Departments.
As appropriate.
as appropriate.
And then the other one, it's just consistency, so on some we end it with a period, on others we don't have any.
Yeah, no, I noticed that after I'd seen that. It was,
I'm not trying to sound critical, but it's just small.
It's okay.
Sorry, thank you for the hard work and putting this together.
So, you got all that? So in the first one, the only thing that I would, in the communication goal, is we just put out disseminate information, including information for school committee meetings. In the time
just noted it as disseminate information including school committee meeting materials in a timely manner.
Or meeting materials, okay, that's fine.
I'm a person of few words, disseminate information in a timely manner. Period.
That's good.
Okay. Fine with that too? Delete, delete, delete. Anything else?
Do we want to see the changes before we vote on them?
I would just vote to.
I can send it to Erin, and Erin can share with everybody in the folder. By the weekend, you guys are good to go.
Make an amendment to my original motion to accept the school committee goals with the above discussed changes.
Second.
So we will do all in favor? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion carries, thank you very much.
Sweet.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Mara.
We will continue with the transfer request form.
So at a previous meeting, we received some legal guidance that we could in fact create a transfer request form in order to clarify the process of requesting a transfer from one town to the other. With some input from Jonathan Atwater, we did create this proposed form. And also are suggesting a window of January 3rd, 2023 to March 1st, 2023 to submit requests for transfers for the upcoming year. You'll note that the transfer form does include the language that Attorney Atwater had suggested about extenuating circumstances that would allow the school committee to entertain requests outside of that window. Now, the only other thing that I would add is that in some of our communications about this, Jonathan was concerned that we make a very strong effort to communicate this to the community as if we're going to change our process for processing transfer requests.
And this would start in 2023. So right now we have about a month, roughly, a little more than a month to let them know when the process begins, because it begins, we just say January 3rd.
Correct.
We're going to put like a HWRSD header on this.
Sure.
The only other question I had is, so I know that there's the possibility that people are going to ask about emails. Did he comment about email versus it says transfer request form may be mailed or hand-delivered and should be addressed to? Does it reference email?
He did not have any comments about that.
Is there a reason why we don't have email on?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. We could add it.
Is it possible just to follow up with him to make sure that?
I don't think there's a challenge with it saying, I'm going to follow up them. Most of them come in well, historically, they come in via the PDF copy as long as the signature is fine.
What do we do about the signature?
Do we accept electronic signatures?
Or did someone design it, scan it,
We
email it?
We have that. So we could make this a PDF, put it on the website, and people can go and just fill in the blank.
Go ahead.
A small thing, I would not make reference to ES. And the reason for that is it's going to change every year. So if you have it as a request for school transfer for the upcoming school year, however you want to word it, but that way you get rid of the dates, and it would be like January 3 or January 3rd, no later than March 1st of the preceding school year, however you word it. That way no one has to adjust each year.
That's a good point. And then the only other ask I would have is to have the fonts all match. Because there's a variation in font.
So it may also be getting into a little bit of murky territory, but I think we should at least discuss it, is we have had transfer requests in the past in which there's a primary parent versus you'll have maybe divorced parents, and one parent is responsible for decision-making. I don't know if we want to try to fit that in somewhere, and do primary parent, primary contact regarding issues. Because I do know that we have had a couple of instances where the decision-making wasn't exactly clear.
So just to clarify, when you say primary parent, you mean the parent who has educational decision-making authority?
Yeah, that would be the primary contact. I don't know if you want to do it as a separate line. Would probably be the easiest way to do it. Got both parents' names and then primary contact. So that if there was questions, we would know who to contact.
And also, what if one parent says yes, one parent says no? Someone says, I'm the primary parent, and I send it with one signature, and then we approve it, and then the other parent goes, wait, what? So,
Yeah, do you have a way?
So, my only comment about that is transfers are not the only educational decision in which that scenario comes up. So
okay.
it can be very challenging for schools to handle, but in most cases, what our efforts are around trying to get the parents unified around the decision.
Excellent.
I would reach out to both boards of selectmen and just let them know that this is occurring. I think it was a little bit of a sticking point in the past and just friendly and respectful thing to do.
Agreed. Good suggestion.
How do you plan on sending it out to the community?
I think it should be an email blast followed up with a phone call placed on the district website. I think we should try to sort of flood the zone on this because it will be a new procedure. And the last thing we want is for someone to be foreclosed on the opportunity because they weren't aware of the process.
Just as so at the place where I work, we have a lot of PMBs or SOPs that come out all the time, and I recommend highly just sending a link. So in case anything changes and stuff in the future, people are pulling from the link that will always be updated rather than sending something that might have been changed or no longer in effect. It's just something I've learned the hard way.
Yeah, you may want to consider if we can put a button on the homepage.
Yeah.
Just because since it's so new, people go looking for it temporarily, then, for like a year or two, you leave it there and then put it in underneath some other area, I guess.
Or have it in its area, and then a link also on, so, you know what I mean, so that it's always where it's supposed to be, plus another thing. Again, from experience.
In terms of the dates, 23, 24, just looking down at the bottom, so change the wording from March 1st to after due date, or something like that, so it can be a generic form we use all the time.
Because it also states in the very down the bottom.
I think that's it. So if you just remove the years and you say preceding year,
Yeah.
you can leave March 1 and just remove the year. That would be the key. Yeah.
Cheryl, how would you describe next year without saying 2023, 2024? In education, what's another way, other than saying the date that you use? The following
The
school
following year,
The
following
following
school.
the following subsequent school year, right?
I like that.
That's
That's a good word.
right, exactly.
All right, so we are going to move on to public comment.
Maybe we,
We vote on
We
it.
actually don't need to.
Oh, we don't? Okay.
So
Beautiful.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks for your motion. You're welcome to the second.
But actually, the motion was, so we have to just make a motion to table the motion that we just put up. We just can't do anything about that.
Sorry.
There you go.
Discussion,
Um,
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to public comment. Erin, has anyone signed up for public comment online? No? And no one here? Is anyone here interested in making a public comment? Okay, we are going to move on. So to the subcommittee updates. We'll start with the curriculum subcommittee, Cheryl.
I just have one update. One update that on the 15th of December, the Flynn Associates will come to do a hour-long presentation as to, it's to finalize the grant, the cost of the Flynn's involvement in getting us to I'm blanking on the illustrative map. So what I'm worried about is we're going to, the whole school committee is invited to attend. The curriculum subcommittee won't attend as a subcommittee because we don't want a forum for that. It's going to be the Flynn and Associates will be presenting how they look at math, not the curriculum on illustrated math. That's going to happen on the 6th of December when we have a curriculum night for all the curriculums.
Right.
But because we have this part of the grant, or of what the cost of our illustrative math was, it's in his contract, it's in his contract to come and do a 1-hour presentation. I don't know, John, is there a due date? Like, does he have to have it done before the end of the fiscal year? Or?
I would imagine that the contract runs with the fiscal year. That's how most of the contracts are written, although I'm not 100% certain on that.
So my concern is we're having all these parents come to the 6th for a curriculum night, and then there's going to be something that sounds very much similar in terms of the math night, but it's going to, I'm not sure how we present it so parents see it's really actually very different, because it's going to be how we get children to think about math and think and not do math. You might have, at one curriculum night, you might talk about how you're going to introduce fractions. But at this night, you're going to be given a fraction and say, what are the kinds of things that this fraction makes you think about? Or this word math sentence makes you think about how could you approach it. The principals did do this workshop with Flynn, and I got very good feedback from it, that it was a way of thinking about math as opposed to doing math, and they thought it was very valuable.
Ask a question?
Yes, but I'll probably not know the answer.
Okay. Is this another parent night?
So I see that it's posted, so I got the same email.
Saying that's not right.
No, but so the only question I had to what Cheryl was saying to your question is, wouldn't you guys have the conversation about, haven't you talked to the illustrative math folks from the subcommittee level? Do you know about that?
No, I did not know about this.
But I mean, of the program, so when we adopted illustrative, wasn't that last year?
Yeah, I'm really confused exactly. So there's an event on the 6th. Is that what we're talking about, or that's not?
There's 2 events coming up. One is on the 6th, that
Yeah.
is a curriculum night for math and ELA. I'm not sure about
It's an hour and a
science.
half, right? Yeah.
And the curriculums will be presented.
But that's okay.
But we have this other
Opportunity.
thank you, from Flynn, that we've already paid for, and they contracted to do it. It's an hour-long, look at how people
Yeah.
think
Right.
about math
So-
and become mathematical
But is that during
thinkers.
your meeting, or is that during our school committee meeting?
That's at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, on the 15th.
So we have a school, so that will happen with the curriculum then?
I guess my question is,
Won't be a
I guess I know the first one is a curriculum night for both of them. Are you saying the second one is another parent curriculum night for math? Okay,
I wouldn't call it a curriculum night per se,
it's a math.
It's
Info.
It's an information.
here's what to learn about illustrative math, a parent's guide to illustrative math.
Okay, so first one is for both ELA and math next week, and this one is just math.
I know
Help me out
this
here,
one is
John.
just math. The one we're talking about with Flynn is just math. I believe the one that's happening next week is both ELA and math.
So has an invitation been sent out to families about the second one?
I don't know. Do we know where it's going to be?
So
Because we're at Sewell Road.
it's going to be at Sewell Road.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it before our meeting?
Yes.
So it's another
So, like a
parent.
Okay. And there's a concert at 6 o'clock where I hear Sir Nicholas Kennedy playing the saxophone. So I hope you all want to attend.
We'll try and get Mr. Flynn done by 5 to 6.
I just feel like I'm like just walked into another country. So Flynn is this company that owns illustrative math.
No?
No.
No, he's a consultant company.
Okay, so what is he has a contract with us, his contract with us was to do what?
A 1-hour presentation on that.
How did,
Mathematical thinking.
how did this,
Mathematical thinking.
how did this contract come about? Where did this come from?
So I don't have the history to that, but I can tell you that the contract is much larger than just a 1-hour presentation. Flynn Associates have been providing professional development to support the implementation of the new math curriculum. So they've been working with teachers, they've been working with administrators. Part of that contract was actually a 1-hour presentation that was to be delivered to the school committee. But we were feeling that there might not be an appetite for a 1-hour presentation on math at a whole school committee meeting. So we were trying to make use of the time in a way that might reach more of the community by transforming it into a parent night and inviting the school committee to attend.
So, but they're a consulting group that provides consulting services outside of implementation of math curriculum? Or are they specific, I guess.
They're specifically math curriculum. They work with a number of districts with a number of different math curriculums.
Okay.
One of the ones they can support is the one that we're implementing.
So they're working with our districts to implement the illustrative math program, the illustrative math curriculum. But the program that you're talking about is not specific to illustrative math, it's just kind of thinking about math in general.
No, I think what I was trying to say was that the program on the 6th will be specifics as to the curriculum for both illustrative math.
And are they providing that presentation as well?
I don't believe so.
No.
I think that's the district.
It's the district.
One way of distinguishing the two nights may be that the first night is about curriculum, the second night is about instructional techniques.
So the second is more for administrative staff?
It would seem,
No, it's
it would seem
more-
like they're in reverse order at the very least.
Yeah.
Does the second night add value, or are we simply trying to comply with time?
We're trying to make use of the money that was put in the contract that no one can really kind of figure out why.
So why don't we ask him to remove that portion of the contract, strike it, and refund it, however that portion is?
If that's the direction the committee gives, I can certainly do that. I would imagine they might say we agreed to do the service.
Did we agree to a specific date by them to do it?
No, it would just have to be within the context of the contract year, the length of the whole contract.
You can see the confusion that would be had if you're gonna have a curriculum night, and then not even like a week later, maybe about over a week, then you're gonna have another discussion, but only a part of what you just talked about.
Well, it's kind of like mine, it's kind of like you bought a car, right?
But you're gonna go back, and they're gonna show you how to use everything.
No, you bought a car, so now you've bought a Ford Mustang, but now we're gonna go back and we're gonna look at the whole Ford line to, try to talk about all the other Fords that are out there. It seems like it would almost be backwards, like if you wanted to talk about how math curriculum is how we look at mathematics and how it may differ from what we've done historically.
Can I just jump in for just a second? I had the impression from Lisa Curtin that it needed to be done before January 1st. You do have that expression?
I don't know. That may be true.
If this is go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
I guess my question would be, when do we have to use the hour by? And then if the curriculum that's happening next week is through K through 5, then could the second one be middle school math? Like 6th grade is using illustrative math, right?
I think the practical problem with that would be that the only support that we've provided with this organization for our teachers has been up to grade 6. So
Right.
7th and 8th grade would have not
But in this
had the
particular curriculum meeting for parents next week, it's only up to 5th grade, so we left 6th grade out for math. I'm just trying to see if it has to be used by January 1st or whatever. The
Well,
6th grade parents aren't getting a presentation on math.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Well,
Good point.
So-
It doesn't have to be done by January 1st. Oh, it doesn't? When does it have to be done by? If so, then
can we table it for,
Why not just have the individual show up on the 6th if people want to ask certain questions on Hwrsd, they're in the corners, and we can ask them the questions.
It would seem to make more sense to me rather than having a separate program. I mean, is there anything else he can do? You know, I mean, like, can we maybe do a tarot card reading, or, I mean, it seems to me like he's gonna show up for an hour and he's gonna discuss the sort of generalized concepts of learning about math. But we've already picked this curriculum.
And does it
Well, I
have
think
to
they're
be
helping
us
us
versus?
I thought from what Cheryl had said, Cheryl, tell me if I'm wrong here, that this is an education to parents. This is the math curriculum, right? This is how we're thinking about math. These are this is the way that we're going at math, rather than the way that we all learn, like 1 + 2, whatever. It's more of the philosophy behind it, so that we can communicate with our kids when, as we all know, as parents, they come up and say, "Can you help me with this? I have a question." So, am I right? Or
That's not what she said.
That's not what I heard. What I heard
That's
was
what I heard.
they're trying to do that, to use the hour. But it was supposed to contractually be an hour to the school committee, and I think very astute observations, that's probably not the best use of an hour. And so now it's, hey, can we do it this way?
Yeah. And I think the way it was phrased was is that we're not going to be talking about illustrative math. We're just going to be talking about sort of generalized, conceptual ideas.
But couldn't that be, isn't that sort of the purpose of why we have a subcommittee for curriculum, that hour gets done at the subcommittee level, and then they bring forward a couple of major points of things that we as a committee need to know?
Let's send it to the subcommittee and they can use the hour as they see fit.
Can we do that?
You can.
Would you?
Absolutely.
all right.
It's till the end.
You didn't get rid of it?
No, I have till the end of the school year.
So, till like the end of June?
Oh, the end of June. We can figure that out. No need to rush in December.
I think that's an excellent idea.
All right, thank you so much.
Move on.
Where's Bill?
Finance and operations, we did not meet this week. Give everybody a week off, right after the Thanksgiving vacation.
We appreciate that.
The only thing is that I did send the letter. Did you see it? I sent it to Ronnie. So Ronnie has a copy of the letter that is to go out. The only two changes that I made, number one is that I need to add the town, each of the town managers on the list. I neglected to do that. The other one is that I added the capital planning committees from both towns, because I know we're talking about building usage, and I remember we got into a discussion at last year's roundtable about it, and everybody was kind of punting it off. So if we have somebody in capital planning from each town, I think it would be instructive, at least to give them some input as to what we're talking about, and also to get some insight from them, what kinds of discussions they've been having.
So I can tell you that if Doug Boyd comes, Doug's on capital planning, and then to cover a couple of bases with that, get 5 minutes advisory, you get capital planning. He gets CPA,
which
you
is,
get.
yeah, which is great. I mean, if you can fill it, if you wear a couple of hats, that's outstanding.
So when you send the letters to Ronnie, do you include Michelle Knowles as the chair of the school committee?
I actually sent it back to Ronnie. I asked her to run it by John and Aaron, just to make sure that everything was correct, and then they could send it out to Michelle just for the contract.
Because I think all major communications like that for our policy is that they come out through the chair.
Yeah, that's good.
I realize you're the chair of the subcommittee, but the communications come out through the chair of the school committee.
Yeah, no, I was asking for them to look it over and make sure I didn't miss anything. So, and then from there, they can send it to Michelle, and we can send it as well.
On finance and operations, I don't know how many YouTube likes we got, but I learned that at least one person watched the last meeting because they did show the Wilbraham CPA cutoff for this upcoming year is January 20th. So if there's any desire to have a conversation about playground equipment or playing surfaces, it's a short window between now and then. From a submission standpoint, Hamden, speaking of Doug, typically that's more of a running calendar. But if we look at it historically, when we requested funds previously, it was based off the town split. And we just need to pay attention to what we're going to pay here earlier. So,
And the Hamden CPA one is normally 45 days prior to the town meeting, because they'll put a warrant article out for that.
And just to clarify for the other 15,000 or so residents that didn't watch the YouTube video, Patrick's very astute observation was that when we were looking at the resurfacing of Sewell Road, suggestion was to separate out playground portion. And we also had, I believe, 2 play sets looking to be replaced, and all of those would indeed be eligible for CPA funds. So it's good to know. Certainly it'll give us an opportunity to use those funds and not pull them out of the general funds in the school budget. So great suggestion.
You're forgetting that Green Meadows has the running track for the Healthy Kids series.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So we need to make sure we get that.
Thank you.
And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anything from LPDC, Library Representative, Lisa?
We haven't had a meeting.
Okay, excellent. From the LPDC Corporation Representative, nothing to report, as well as for the Negotiation Subcommittee, nothing to report at this time. So we'll move on to the Policy Subcommittee more.
Second reading day. Second reading day. Today is the second reading of the harassment of students policy, JBA, JICK, as well as JICFB, bullying, hazing, and intimidation, bullying prevention, as well as policy KHA, which is the public solicitation in the schools. So please take a few minutes and, between now and the next meeting to take a look at those policies. If there's anything that you think should be changed, any modifications you'd like to suggest. The next meeting will be the final reading and we will vote on them. Nope.
Michelle, just quick one. Can we put the planning committee, I guess that's the title of it,
Strategic planning.
the strategic planning committee. Can we put that on here now? And do we have any updates on, last I heard, I think Camden did.
I think that's going to come out in the superintendent report. About the, is that something you're
I
reporting
didn't
on?
see it on the agenda.
Just so you can see what we're looking at this time.
Yeah.
So that, we'll put that, we'll start adding that as a subcommittee. But John is going to touch on that during his update.
Okay. Just one thing, if you go to harassment of students,
Yes, okay.
go all the way down to the second to the last paragraph. It just reads a little funny. It says the district will promptly and reasonably investigate allegations of harassment through designation of Title IX coordinator for building-based employees. Should be designation of a Title IX.
No, that's, so I will tell you that specifically on a lot of the Title IX,
Yeah.
our attorney had provided us the language for some of that. It comes straight from the law.
Through designation of a Title IX, B Title IX.
Because there often can be more than one. That's how the law, I can send you the Mass General.
So maybe coordinator.
But then look, on the last paragraph, second line, it says, of the Title IX coordinator or building-based employees. There is a listed later.
It's just, it's a missing, it looks like just a missing word.
I can put it on there.
If there's more than, do we typically have more than one Title IX coordinator? Is there a possibility that you would ever have that?
Usually just one.
Okay.
Motion accepted consent agenda.
So moved. Second?
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Yeah, just to jump back 2 seconds, just to finance and operations, just to make sure I close the loop on that. So John, you're going to just make contact with Ronnie. I had asked that she send the copies of the letter to you. Just make sure they add the town managers to the invite list. And then send it to Michelle, and then it can be sent out from there. And that way I don't need to be involved in it.
Okay.
Thank you.
When is your next meeting?
Monday.
5, conference room.
5 conference room, yes.
And our next policy meeting is January 3rd at the district office. I believe it's the 3rd.
What time?
5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, somewhere like that. I don't know the exact time, but I'll make sure that It should, it will, if it hasn't been posted, it will be posted.
Thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Let me start by clarifying the question that just came up regarding the strategic planning committee. Wilbraham has identified Teresa Goodrich as their representative on the committee. We are still trying to clarify from Hamden. I believe it's going to be either Dan Davenport or Doug Boyd. We had some conversations today with their clerical staff. That may be a little bit unclear at this moment, but I believe it'll be one of those two individuals.
Just so you know that that's, Dawn.
Don, so,
Dawn Davenport.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so moving on to the entry plan. Since our last meeting, the observational component of my entry plan has shifted from the secondary grades to elementary. Yesterday, I spent the day with amazing preschoolers and kindergartners from Mile Tree and Green Meadows. It was my first opportunity to observe the new literacy and mathematics programs at length, and I was very encouraged by what I saw. Based on my observations, I can report that preschoolers are learning the alphabet, and that after 58 days of school, kindergartners have mastered 14 letter sound relationships and can use them to decode just about any CBC word made up of those letters. And they can identify phonemes in even longer words. They can also accurately use basic literary terms such as character, plot, and fiction. This shows what's possible when students receive the kind of evidence-based instruction they need to develop a foundation for literacy. Given my roots in special education, I've often felt the single most meaningful step we can take toward greater equity is giving all students evidence-based literacy practice. So I can't tell you how good it feels to see this happening in our district. Our youngest students are also building an understanding of geometric concepts, including the ability to compose and identify shapes based on verbal descriptions, such as, draw me a shape with 4 corners and 4 sides of equal length. What is it? Good skill for a kindergartner to have. And I had the pleasure of ending my day in a very lively conversation with a young lady who I challenged to describe all the ways in which a cone and a pyramid are similar and all the ways they're different from each other. And she was able to make several accurate observations about the difference between those two geometric forms. And this is only the beginning. Our elementary teachers are stretching so far to implement 2 new curriculums at the same time, and they're doing a great job. I'm here to cheer them tonight. Let's keep going, let's keep learning. We're doing something really important and something really great for our learners. It's going to get easier over time, and it's going to get better over time. But it's already apparent that our youngest learners are soaking up information and starting to develop some sophisticated early literacy and early numeracy skills. With respect to the strategic plan, I can report that we've solicited quotes from a number of pre-qualified vendors based on specifications drawn up by the DEI team, and several have responded to notify us that they are preparing proposals. As I reported at the last meeting, we're considering using the survey instrument developed by the Massachusetts Consortium for Innovative Educational Assessments as the possible solution to the strategic plan's call for us to launch an annual climate survey. I'm meeting tomorrow with someone from the consortium, and we'll gather more information about that possibility. The website review evaluation team will be meeting on December 13th to view a demonstration of a school website solution from a potential vendor. The instructional leadership team held its first meeting earlier this week. Our focus was on creating engaging environments for mathematics instruction using techniques from building thinking classrooms. I was happy to see educators with both administrative and instructional roles working as partners to figure out what needs to be done to help all students receive powerful math learning experiences. And now that the job descriptions for the Curriculum Council have been approved, we'll post and work on standing up councils for both mathematics and English language arts. The SWEAT team met last week. The 2 main topics of discussion were planning a family reunification practice and conducting safety audits. Let me begin with the reunification drill. which is an action step in our strategic plan. Green Meadows has volunteered to conduct the drill, which will allow us to practice procedures for dismissing students directly to parents during an event where normal dismissal procedures might be inappropriate or impossible, such as in a natural disaster. The team for Green Meadows has been preparing all fall for the drill, and we'll meet again next Monday to continue preparing. They have been sharing their practices with the rest of the team, so all the other schools are benefiting from that as they think through the issues involved with implementing our family reunification plan. With respect to the safety audits, we've decided to move from a consultant-dependent model to one in which district staff can do safety audits. Following the sort of see one, do one, teach one model of learning, the consultants who conducted our last safety audits recommends conducting the next one with the school-based teams to build their skills at following the protocol. And then these staff will have the skills they need to train new individuals to conduct safety audits as our staff turns over. Finally, looking ahead to the strategic plan steps for next school year, I realized that we took a big step toward accomplishing the one calling for us to disaggregate data when I gave the accountability report last month. So based on that, I think the status of that action should be changed from not started to in progress. And I think that's where it's going to stay, because disaggregating data is something we always need to do. It's not something that's one and done. Moving forward, the administrative team will continue to disaggregate new data as it becomes available to identify the high leverage points for district improvement. And with that, I'd like to segue from my report to my proposed evaluation goals. So you have this in your packet. You have a new one. You might have noticed there were 2 typos. I thank the member who pointed those out, so you have one that's corrected. So since you have this, I won't read it word for word, but just for the public. The first part of this process is an analysis of student learning, growth, and achievement, and sort of a self-reflection. And noting there that overall student performance in our district is strong, but not as strong as it could be. Most of the students perceive our schools as safe places to be, but we have room to grow in student perceptions of competence, relationships, engagement, discipline, and the mental health environment. My primary concern is for math achievement in grades 3 through 8, based on evidence that was shared last week. And some of our subgroups are not performing to their full potential, specifically students with disabilities and Hispanic or Latino students. Another thing noting, just in my self-reflection, is that student perceptions of climate and student academic achievement vary by sex, with female students reporting more favorable views of their elementary experience and performing better in English language arts, whereas male students are reporting more favorable views of their secondary experience and performing better in math and science. So the second step of this process is to continue thinking about what that all means in terms of my own practice and my performance against the standards for superintendent practice that have been identified by the state. And so part of my reflection was about being in a new district. Some skills are generalizable from district to district because they're embedded within larger frameworks, like curriculum is the same standards throughout the state, assessment is the same system throughout the state, it's the same set of laws that govern education across the state, so those skills are highly transferable. But then there are things that are unique about each district, and so part of the challenge is bringing in what I know about being a superintendent from prior districts without inappropriately overgeneralizing from my prior learning to the new context, which has its own unique features. I note that many of the issues related with instructional leadership and professional culture, which are 2 key parts of the superintendent evaluation rubric, intersect in the problem of implementing a new core math curriculum and developing a vertically aligned curriculum. And so I think that is one place where I would like to focus a lot of effort, a lot of my goals one of my professors at UMass used to say all the laws of physics are contained in a drop of water, so find the drop. And for me, I think the drop of water is implementing that new math curriculum. So then that brings me to the goals I'm proposing for evaluation. And this is a 2-year cycle, so you'll see these are all basically things that are over the course of the next 2 years. So the first, and they're all team goals because superintendent does all of the work with others. Very little that you do by yourself as a superintendent. The first one is in math, and I'm proposing to assist with the implementation of the new curriculum so that our overall numbers of students in grades 3 through 8 meeting or exceeding expectations as measured by MCAS increase from the current 42% to 50% by 2024. And I'm sorry, I know that there are people here who prefer fewer words, but there's like a formula that you have to use to write these out. So they are a little wordy. I apologize for that. My second goal is a professional practice goal. The professional practice goal is all around something that you want to learn. And so I'm connecting that to the work on the equity audit, because the idea of an equity audit is to learn what's happening in the district, what we need to do to change our practice in order to create more learning environments that are more responsive, inclusive, and respectful to all learners. So, I know how to do that in general, but I don't know what the specific challenges in our own district are. I hope to learn that through work on the equity audit. And then superintendents also get to propose district improvement goals, which should be aligned to the district improvement plan and strategic plan. And so I know there's an important one to review our website and refresh our website to make it more accurate. It also connects with one of the school committee goals that was discussed earlier tonight. So I'm proposing that working with the website review and evaluation team, we develop a new website, either a refresh of what we currently have or a completely new one that will support the school committee's goal of providing accurate, transparent communication between the district and the communities. And then to sort of round it out, and the other goal I would propose is a social emotional one. One of the things you noticed last week was that 8th grade in particular had lower perceptions of student school culture. And so one of the goals of the strategic plan is to enhance our multi-tiered system of support. Part of the multi-tiered system of support is making sure that students receive the kinds of social emotional interventions that they need, as well as the academic interventions they need. And so through doing that, I hope to support the school in shifting culture for students, the schools in shifting culture for students, so that we see 8th graders reporting a better school experience. So those are my proposed goals and my reflections based on the rubric.
Make a motion to accept the superintendent's proposed goals.
Second. Can I encourage one modification?
Sure.
So on the first page, third paragraph, I would just change that to some of our student subgroups are not performing to their full potential. Because if I go back and if I look at the numbers, there are other student subgroups that are actually performing worse than some of the ones that we mentioned. So that way it just covers subgroups as a whole.
Sure.
Just with regards to the website, and I've been racking my brain trying to remember. It's a company called Wild Apple. They're in Hamden, but the people who own it and run it live in Wilbraham, and I believe they have kids or had kids in that district. So that's just an example. If there are any local, I would encourage you to try to, find someone that, is invested in the community to maybe, give them more skin in the game, so to speak.
Sure. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I was just nice job.
Thank you.
Really nice. Excellent goals, well written.
We'll do that again. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Before we jump on that, so this one YouTube viewer, may have been more, really enjoyed the last meeting. So the other comment they made that I was very funny, they thought the presentation was outstanding. And they would encourage that to be something that would be shared with the community, that would be shared with the teaching population here and shared with parents. So that may be an opportunity to bring people to the YouTube video if they want to see it. But I think a really nice way to explain how we view things, because that's been a question for at least this 5+ years I've been on the committee of what are we really looking at and what's it do. And I thought that's 30 minutes that somebody watches, they learn a heck of a lot from it. Absolutely.
Oh,
Are you done?
I think I'm done.
Okay. So future agenda items?
Before we do that, could I go back to one thing? And John Scholes reminded me of it. We began with the curriculum council member job description. I would, because we have a real challenge educating the special education children, I would think that maybe one of the qualifications would be to have someone on that was a special ed teacher or an.
I think that's a great idea, and something I've heard from Gina as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sorry. On future agenda items, can we remove some of the ones that we've had on there for a year and we haven't done anything with?
Yes, they're actually going to be going on the next agenda.
Okay,
So
all right.
we're going to, so we had a conversation when we were meeting to do the agenda. We're going to be cleared by our January meeting, so touch
Yeah,
on
future
everything. So
agenda.
yeah, so we'll be starting fresh.
Perfect, beautiful, thank you.
Oh, excellent. Wait a second.
Second, third.
So roll call vote. Bill?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.